It was certainly a backyard brawl to remember on Thursday night from Acrisure Stadium. Unfortunately for the Mountaineers, though, they did not come out on top. What's going on, everybody? Wesley, Shoemaker, Aaron Parker back with you today. Blue Gold Sports Podcast. Whew. Tough one. If you're the Mountaineers, you had every chance to win that game, and you just couldn't at the end. We'll get into all of it. Just, it's been a very long night for the both of us. I didn't get back from Pittsburgh working the game till 3 in the morning, and here we are at 9:40 Friday morning giving you this podcast. So we will do our best to talk about everything. Aaron, just kind of your overall thoughts, don't get into specifics quite yet, just kind of your overall thoughts on your feelings today.
The feelings are pretty crappy, but I think that this team has a quarterback in JT Daniels. I think they have a bright young star with CJ Donaldson, but that was the most WVU way to lose a football game I've ever seen in my life. And I'm not even surprised that it ended the way it did.
Yeah, let's start at the end. We'll start 341 mark. Pitt goes, actually we'll start earlier than that. So 6 minutes 10 seconds left in the game. West Virginia is at their own 47-yard line. The Mountaineers on the last drive had just gotten a sack of 14 yards from Dante, a sack of 6 yards from who was it? No, it wasn't Austin. It was, do you know who it was? That sack? I'm looking. Hold on. It was
Sean Martin.
Yep. Sean Martin sacked for 6 yards. It's 3rd and 40, it feels like. 3rd and 30, whatever. Pitt has to punt, and your defense just made a huge stand, and you're coming back with the ball. Mountaineers, 4th and half a yard, and they decide to go and punt. In the moment, I thought that was the right decision. I looked to the reporter next to me. I said, "That's what you have to do. You have to punt there." I just think your defense was playing really well. And if you turn the ball over, Pitt goes 30 yards and they score no matter what. So obviously hindsight's 2020, but your defense was playing well. You did exactly what you were going to do. You pinned them inside their 10-yard line. That ball went to the 8. If you want to talk about guys who had a good night, Oliver Straw, true freshman punter, he punted the ball extremely well all night. He's been fighting for that job, and he won that job, and he showed out last night. And that special teams unit, I think it is much improved from where it was last year. We'll get into all this later, but I think you punt there. That's just me. I just think that it's too risky, especially in a game where you're not at home. If you're at home, you can go for it because you kind of have the crowd no matter what. You did not have the crowd last night. I don't know what anyone said before the game, that 75-25 ESPN graphic. There was probably, out of the 70,000 people there, I'd say 75% Pitt fans. West Virginia fans did show out, but looking down that whole lower bowl on the Pitt side was Pitt fans. Obviously, Pitt had their huge student section in the one end zone. So there's a lot of Pitt fans there. I think you punt that ball, and I don't disagree with Neil Brown's decision.
I'm gonna have to take the other side on that.
Hold on, Aaron. In the moment, did you agree to punt the ball?
I didn't really think about what's right or what's not, but I knew what was gonna happen. I thought, it looked like they were gonna go for it, but once the play clock went down, I knew Neil was gonna do that classic, let the play clock run out, take 5 yards backwards and punt. He does that all the time. So I wasn't really thinking about what's right. In the moment, it was like, here we go again. Neil's playing not to lose. Oklahoma 2021. Virginia Tech 2021, just barely got that win, lost to Oklahoma, just playing not to lose. That's what I thought, and that's what I still think. And hold on, another thing. There's not enough. I didn't think there's enough trust there. I mean, you got CJ Donaldson, who you've been raving on all camp. He runs 7 times. He only gets the ball 7 times for 125 and a touchdown. He's big, he's fast, and he runs downhill. You need not a yard, you need a foot. Or get the lineman behind JT Daniels and push him. I just didn't think there was enough trust in the offense there. But again, the defense had been playing well. You trust them to get that stop, and it just didn't happen. So I don't know.
What I'll say to that point though is West Virginia kind of in short yardage situations, they kind of struggled there. I think on that it was that late drive, that game tying drive, it was 3rd and 2. Tony Mathis runs up the middle. It's 3rd and 2. Tony Mathis, like it was close. Like those are the types of things that West Virginia kind of had struggled with all night. That O-line was, I think, getting beat a lot, especially late in that game in that fourth quarter. That O-line kind of just couldn't hold on. And so I didn't dislike the decision. Obviously, hindsight's 2020. If you go for it and you get it, you win that game. I do think there's a point though of playing not to lose versus playing to win. But I think in your head, if you're Neil Brown and you say, wow, look what my defense just did, let's have them go 92 yards and however much 6 minutes and have to score a touchdown, like do it, and he took that bet and his defense allowed a touchdown, but then his offense was in a position to win the game again. So kind of moving to that, like West Virginia gets the ball 3 minutes, 41 seconds at their own 25 after the Pitt touchdown and kickoff. First play, it's a run, 14 yards on the outside. Second play, everyone's seen it by now. JT Daniels looks left, Bryce Ford Wheaton's wide open. And just I've heard it be called the Pitt Six. I've heard it a bunch of different things. You can call it whatever you want. If you're a West Virginia fan, it's the worst drop ever. And I think those are the kind of plays that happen in these types of games. Those are the types of plays that if you're Bryce, like it's going to be a hard week getting over that and having to go face your 60,000 faithful on Saturday. But Bryce Ford doesn't catch it, hits off his hands. Pitt defender catches it, runs 54 yards, 64 yards, whatever it was. And that place went bonkers. And you get the ball back, driving down the field. What could have been like Bryce Ford, I mean, in fairness, that last drive when he was driving down the field, I was very impressed with how he kind of just held in there. Like he got smacked on that one across the middle on that third down. He got smacked. They picked up the flag. They picked up 2 targeting flags on Pitt, and we'll get into that in a second. Once we're done here, but picked up the flag, kept the things moving, and then 4th and 16, I think it was on the last play of the game, and JT Daniels, like he was harassed. That last drive, JT Daniels was just doing his thing. And so he just throws it up. Reese Smith doesn't look like he caught it from like live. I said to myself, I was like, no way he caught that. And then the refs are spotting the ball, and I'm like, oh my goodness, there's no way they just caught a miracle. Replay, I couldn't tell. I think Kevin Kinder or Dave Pinnock, one of the two, Blue Gold News. They have a really good photo of it, guys. If you want to go check it out at BLUEGOLDNEWS on Twitter. It looked like the ball was on the ground, but then again, the rule is, I believe, the ball can be on the ground as long as you have control of it. It looked like he had control. Not my decision. Neil was pissed about it after the game. Neil, if you guys saw it, it just wasn't the best look. He followed the referee off the field of some sort, it looked like. So yeah, just kind of your thoughts there, Aaron, on how this offense responded and how kind of that last drive went from your point of view.
Yeah, I mean, we could talk all day about the, punting the ball and the Reese Smith play and all that. But the game was lost with that drop, and I knew it as soon as the ball went through his hands. The game was lost at that moment. You could talk about the Reese Smith play, like you watching from home. When I saw it live, I thought that's not a catch. But I don't think anybody truly knows the rule, including the stripes at this point. So, you can argue about that, but I think the game was truly lost with that pick six. It's just it just seems like that doesn't happen to other teams. But, and it's your best receiver too. It's Bryce Ford Wheaton, 9 for 97 with 2 touchdowns. I mean, and he did respond. I like the way JT responded, and you're right, he was getting eat up towards the end with that pressure, and it didn't work out in the end, and I think you just got to go back to that pick six. I'm tired of watching it, but that's where the game was decided.
Yeah, let's talk about Bryce a little bit. Third generation Mountaineer, and he's playing the game of his life, and probably the biggest game of his life. And for that to happen, like I so feel for the kid. I just think that when it happened, I was like, of course, right? Like, just of course, as JT Daniels described it after the game, he said it was a fluke play. If I throw that ball 1,000 times, that probably happens once, and he's right. Um, it's unfortunate that happened, that situation. Daniels said something along those lines as well, and he said, and I just think we'll get into Daniels in a second here, but I just think that if he makes that catch, I don't see where Pitt's defense was stopping West Virginia on that drive. I think you really run the ball down the field and you score, this game's over. And you come back to Morgantown, and we were having a way different conversation today. There's not much more we can really say for me besides, like, I feel for the kid. I think he's this season, he's still gonna have a really good season. If we're also being honest, like, he got killed a couple times in that game. He finished with 16 targets, 9 receptions, 97 yards, 2 tutties. He played his ass off. He really did. And it's unfortunate that no one's going to think about the 97 and 2. They're going to think about the 1. And it sucks because he's a really good player. He's a really good dude. And I feel for him, and I feel for that locker room because they all played Pitt last night, and it's unfortunate that one play decided the game.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but it's kind of life as a Mountaineer. Those little fluke plays. That's just I kind of was waiting for it at that point. I've seen it too many times. I told my roommate, it's going to come down to who screws up, not who makes a big play, and and that was West Virginia that screwed up. I agree with you. I think that ball's caught, even if he doesn't get any yards after catch, which he would have. I don't see the Pitt.
It was a 13. It was 13 yards down the field, and then he had daylight in front of him.
He had room, yeah. But I don't see the Pitt defense stopping the Mountaineers at that point. And that's why when WVU gave up the tying score, I'm watching it from home, I'm usually kind of a pessimistic watcher. But when they scored that, I felt good. I was like, okay, they scored, it's tied. But I think JT's going to lead the team down the field, CJ Donaldson and them. And I think giving it to Donaldson to start and then that play, I think Graham was going to cause some plays to lead us down the field for a touchdown. But it didn't work out that way. And yeah, you feel for Bryce Ford Wheaton, but he did have a good game. And he was beat up. I mean, he got at least 1 or 2 dirty hits. Well, dirty in the eyes of a football watcher, but not dirty if according to Louis Riddick, So but yeah, he got beat up.
So,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Pitt alum Louis Riddick in the booth calling the game. It's the cleanest hit ever to him. So it was a little frustrating too.
Let's talk about JT Daniels. I have not seen a quarterback throw the ball like that since Will Grier. I think he throws it better than Skylar Howard does. I think his decision making was really good. That first drive, those 2 kind of muffed, fumbled snaps type thing, I was like, oh, here we go. Like, it's gonna be a long day. And he settled in. I think just kind of, you want to talk about making things happen. Like that first drive, he fumbles, like he drops the ball in the snap. Pitt defense is crashing. He steps up, rolls out to his left, finds receiver. Like, he did everything right. Like Bryce, he throws a ball and he gets hit, and then Bryce Ford somehow is open and finds it and jumps it and gets it. Like, he did everything right. And I think that if he stays healthy, this team has a really bright future. And I would say I am more confident in this offense now after watching them play last night than I was before the game yesterday. And let's also think of it this way. Like, last year, West Virginia scored 31 points or more against a Power 5 team 3 times. And they just did that in their first game of the season on the road against a Power 5 team who just won the ACC, who's number 17 in the country, and against a team that over the last 3 years they have the most sacks in FBS football. So he did that not against the Towson. He didn't do that against the Kansas. He did that against a pretty good Pitt team. And I'm impressed with JT. I'm impressed with this offense as a whole, I think. I think that Graham Harrell really has a vision. I think Neil Brown turning the play calls, like, with all due respect to last year's team, that offense does not stay in that game. That offense is not in that game, and it's not even close. So they got their guy in JT. Hopefully for West Virginia, he can stay healthy. Final line was 23 for 40, 214 yards, 2 touchdowns. Obviously, the 1 yard rushing score at the goal line. So it sucks that he just the interception, like that can't be his. Like
At some point,
there's got to be some stat that changes.
at some point we got to give interceptions to receivers.
Yeah, so that's my thought on JT. I thought he played really well. I thought he's a leader. Like listening to him, we'll throw the audio in at the end of this podcast from his press conference, about 5-6 minutes long. He was a leader. He stepped up. He said, "I wasn't thinking about the interception. I was just thinking about trying to make a tackle and then move on, next play." He said, "You can't teach fight, and these guys will go to war with each other." So I'm happy with where he's at. I'm happy with where these guys are, and I think this offense led by JT Daniels, if he stays healthy, this offense could really cause some problems in the Big 12.
Yeah, and you brought up the point, you haven't seen something like that since Will Greer, the kind of drop the snap and beautiful over the shoulder throw. We haven't seen that because the last couple of quarterbacks have been Jared Dagey and Austin Kendall and freaking Jack Allison. So yeah, we haven't seen it since Will Greer. And I agree with your point. I mean, that last year's offense does not stay in that game. They lose by 13, 14 if it's last year's offense.
Yeah, that last year's offense would be lucky to score, I think, 20 points against that Pitt D, because that Pitt D line, like, they're good. And that offensive line tried to hold up as best they could, and West Virginia kind of tried to spread them out with those outside runs. But, like, there were times, especially late there, that JT was kind of scrambling. Jared Dagey doesn't move the way JT did last night, I don't think. I just think
he's a
kind of
statue.
JT's mentality when it's a broken play is a lot better than where Dagey was last year.
Yeah, well, because JT has feel. He can feel the pocket collapsing. And this guy is he's a very talented guy. Like, he could very well be one and done here at WVU, and that's okay. I mean, former 5-star, good at USC, good at Georgia. He's been on a journey, and he's got the talent of an NFL quarterback. I'm not saying he's going to be some Aaron Rodgers, but he's got the talent to be there. We haven't seen a quarterback like that since Will Greer. Nobody has had the talent to be in the NFL. So he's got that natural feel for it, the pocket awareness. But to move to a different point, it's a strong Pitt D line, and I thought at times the line, did their thing, but they gotta be better. I mean, Wyatt Milam was really, really bad. I don't know why Jordan White got so many snaps. I think he's listed as a 2, but he was not good. And Jaquay Hubbard had some pretty costly penalties, but that's, I guess that's pretty normal considering Jaquay Hubbard didn't play very many meaningful snaps last year, and neither did Jordan White. It's a big game, but Wyatt Milam, it got to be better.
Yeah, I wrote down on my notes yesterday during the game. I was like, Milam, like those 2 procedure penalties early, one knocked you out of, I think it was what, a 4th and short or a 3rd and short, 4th and short. 4th and short, you're gonna go for it. Knocks you out of that. Another one where he just had I think it was a unnecessary roughness penalty. Like, those things can't happen. Like, especially if you've made the first 2, you can't make the 3rd with the unnecessary. Like, you got to be better. Talking about the offensive line a little bit, they got beat late. I think that there was some positives. I think running the ball, this offensive line did a damn good job. Sorry. Oh, excuse my language. A really good job running the ball against this Pitt D line. I think that especially when they got kind of outside that middle, running up the middle, it's hard. Like, it's hard. But when they got outside the tackles, they did a really good job, I think. And I think that was evident with CJ Donaldson, 7 for 125. Brandon Yates, Jaquay Hubbard. Neil Brown said after the game that he had a set of guys who he thought would play, and that's so he kind of just rotated guys. I think I saw Gamitter move a couple times. I think I saw Yates move once, maybe. Also tight end. It was good to see Mike O play. Mike O made a big play down the stretch there to kind of keep things going. That was another play JT Daniels made, like rolling out, just push him up the field, buying time, finds Mike O. Mike O makes a great catch. Defense though, this secondary. We're hoping for the best with Charles Woods. I don't know what happened. We don't have an update for you on Charles Woods, but he did not look good. I know the cart came and got him. Took him back to the locker room. I think he did return to the bench, but did not look good for him. Then Wesley McCormick, he got tossed. He got booted after a targeting call, which I think that was a targeting call. Like that was targeting. But if you're gonna call that targeting, you got to call the others targeting. That's not for us to get into, but if you watch the game, you understand what we're talking about. Andrew Wilson Lamp, he kind of had to come in there late because of the targeting call late. So it was kind of weird to see. No goes on the defense. You had two of them. Tyreek Austin Cave, the sophomore linebacker, he did not dress, as well as Jalen Thornton on the defensive line. He did not dress. Excuse me. But this defense, if they can tackle better, if they tackle in space a little better, if they're able to kind of keep everything in front of them better, I think they are better. Just Aaron, your thoughts on the defense, the secondary? I think the secondary played well. I think there were points and times they made plays, they recovered well. I just think the biggest issue was tackling. I think late when Pitt got their last offensive touchdown, I'll say it was a 23-yard scamper where it seemed like he broke 6 tackles there, and West Virginia just couldn't bring him down. And so you've got to make those plays in space. And I think that's part of the first game. Haven't really been super live with other teams, and so it's just knocking the rust off. But I think in 2-3 weeks they're making a lot more of those tackles, I'll say.
Yeah, as far as the defense goes, I mean, you can't say enough about guys like Dante Stills last night. I thought Jared Bartlett was fast on the ball. Lee Koba was too. Sean Martin played a heck of a game. It's first game, a lot of young guys out there, so it's hard to be really critical, but I'm going to take the other side and say I didn't like the secondary. When it came down to it, they didn't make the plays they needed to, and it's hard. Charles Woods is the only real leader, and he goes down with a lower body injury. Like, that's not good. But I thought McCormick was not good. He got toasted a couple of times. On that one play across the middle, the Pitt guy, the spin move, I mean, he should have been tackled after 15 yards. And then he dropped that hit, that targeting. I mean, that was a dangerous hit. They showed the replay, and it was hard to watch. So I didn't think he looked good. I thought Marcus Floyd looked really bad too. On that last touchdown, that guy broke like 7 tackles, but like there was one tackle where like he could have been pushed out of bounds, and like Floyd like gave him a little push, and then kind of like gave up on the play. So that was hard to watch. But they're young. I know Neil likes them, and so I do think they'll be fine. But I think the Charles Woods injury is going to be something to watch, because against teams like Baylor, Oklahoma State, and Texas, like they might be throwing the ball downfield more than what Slovis was. Oh, and that one play Slovis threw down the field, the Pitt receiver dropped a touchdown. I mean, so they got cooked a little bit.
Yeah, kind of going a little disagreement with you. Wesley McCormick, I think, was fine. That targeting penalty sucks, but he almost had an interception, like on the near side.
Oh yeah,
in the
forgot
game.
about that.
He comes across. If he gets a foot down, that's an interception. Ball is going the other way. So like he played well. I think I'm not saying the secondary played well. I'm just saying with the situation of losing McCormick late, losing Woods early, like I think they kind of did what they had to do and they battled. I think that it wasn't pretty, but I mean, they were in the game, and I think that's all you can ask. This defensive line, though, man, they got after it. Dante Stills, he was getting after it all night. He was all over the place, man. He was flying. I think he I know you disagreed with me the other day when we talked about the sack record. I think he gets it. I think he gets that magic 8 number this
Did I
year.
disagree with that?
Yeah, you said I don't know, and I said, well, it
About the
wasn't
sack
on here.
record?
It wasn't on here. I think it was privately,
Oh,
and I
okay.
was like,
I
he
don't
could get
remember.
3-4 against Towson, and then it's a different story. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think he played really well last night. Jared Bartlett, I was impressed. He got the sack early, helped out late. He was making plays. It's kind of good to see that. Obviously, I think we'll find out more of kind of the overall assessment of this defense on Tuesday when we talk Jordan Wesley. But I think the defensive line played well. I think Lee Koba, he played well in the middle. There were a couple times where I feel like there was a little miscommunication, but if you expected there to be no miscommunication in an atmosphere like that, I think you're just wrong. So I was impressed with this defense, and if we're being honest, like there were times like Pitt's numbers weren't the best of this game. Like 384 total yards, 76 rush yards on 38 rushing attempts. So like the biggest plays that hurt you weren't it's not like Pitt made big plays by beating you down the field. They just made big underneath plays and let their receivers go and make plays. And I think that was the biggest difference is it's not like you saw Pitt having this 20-yard bomb out route, this 25-yard down the field middle seam, So it wasn't those things. It was more of the here's a 7-yard pass across the middle, keep running and go make a play. And I think that was kind of the biggest difference. But Pitt's final line on offense, 384 yards, 76 rushing yards on 38 rush attempts, 2 yards per rush. You'll live with that every single time, especially when you have 40 rushing attempts. Like that's big. 3 rushing touchdowns. I thought West Virginia's red zone defense was poor. I think that there were times where Pitt they had made their first contact, and then they got pushed another 5, 6, 7 yards into the end zone. You just can't have that. Once you make contact, you've got to at least try and bring them down and stop them. And they just didn't do that. I think there was 2 touchdowns where the Pitt O line kind of just got a huge push going into the end zone. Passing, yards after catch, 173 for Pitt. I think that's a huge story. Kind of one more thing I want to talk about, turnovers. JT Daniels talked about the interception. Caden Prather put the ball on the ground. Wasn't great. I feel like he kind of could have made a smarter decision on that screen type pass. Kind of feel like he ran into traffic rather than running out of traffic. He kind of made up for it though there towards the end of the first half. Big 23-yard third down conversion. Pitt, they put the ball on the ground twice, I think. Let's see here. No, they put it on the ground twice. So they recovered it. West Virginia recovered it once, and it was really just that was Pitt. That was all Pitt. It wasn't really that West Virginia defense. You just dropped the ball. Yeah. Takeaways. What's your two big things taken away after this game?
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I think you're right with the red zone defense. Is poor. They got to get tougher when it comes to, when you make contact with the running back or the quarterback or receiver, whoever. Because games are going to come down to that. It's going to come down to there's going to be a game that comes down to first, second and goal, third and goal, something like that. So yeah, they got to be tougher with that. Yeah, just mistakes on offense, drops. Obviously, the Ford Wheaton, we could talk all night about it, but Traylon Davis dropped a wide open pass, the fumble.
That was confusing to me. Sorry to interrupt.
No, you're right.
Why is he in that situation? I don't know why your third string tight end is in when you have Miko, who's a sure thing, and according to every single report out there, Pollanday has caught a lot of balls this fall. So
It makes no sense.
I don't know why he was in that spot. He was wide open too, and just another drop. Obviously, that drop you don't remember.
I remember.
But I think that before you go back to you, like Neil had a good point after the game. He said we threw the ball 40 times, we had 2 drops. So in past years, there's been times they threw the ball 35 times and they had 9 drops. So like the drops are magnified when they're the type of drop they were, but for the most part, outside of that, like take out the one play. If you take out that one play, I think this receiver group played really well last night.
Yeah, they did. 2 drops. I think
That's what he said. I
first,
think I count 3 or 4 in my
I mean,
head.
how about that? I think it was in the first half.
There was the
JT
one where he jumped. I think he jumped. He could have gotten it.
he
Hit his
threw
hands.
JT threw that right. I mean, that was a
Yep.
perfect throw, 50 some yards. That's a play you got to make. That's a
That's a
drive, in
drop.
my opinion.
And then
That's
obviously
50
the
yards.
touch to the pick six, and then Traylon Davis. Yep.
Yeah,
All right, go
two
back
two
back to your
drops
point. Back to
was
your point
wrong.
though.
But yeah, just mistakes like that. To go back to the, I mean, Pitt puts it on the ground and you recover. That happens one time, and you go and you immediately fumble. I mean, that is something that WVU does, and you can't have that. And on that play, yeah, Prather fumbled, and he's at fault. But breaking down that play, it's a screen pass, and you need the other receiver who doesn't catch the ball to steal that block, and that's Sam James. And his block was horrible, and Prather ran right into traffic. If Sam James steals that block, I think it's a different story. But yeah, if you're Prather, you can't put the ball on the ground. So there's no excuses.
Yeah, I think KP. That's a tough break that led to Pitt points. Obviously, and the worst part about that is how football is such a game. There's so much momentum that goes back and forth in a football game. You just get all the momentum. Pitt makes a mistake, right? 2 plays later,
You
it's
can't
got
throw
the
it away.
momentum. They drive down the field. They score.
That's what loses games is not taking over and not taking advantage of mistakes, because a team like that's not going to make a ton of mistakes. You're almost there. McCormick almost had that pick, but it's not a pick. And there's almost another fumble, but not a fumble. So when you get that one, you can't immediately put the ball back on the ground. You can't do it.
Yeah, and I think kind of one of the biggest storylines is the almosts, right? Like there were so many opportunities for this team, and I just want to talk big picture here for the rest of the season. My prediction for this team before last night was 7-5. I can see this team going and getting 8 wins. I just think that this offense, they are going to get better. I think that CJ Donaldson's going to get better, and I think that you're not going to face a defensive line like you did last night every single week. Oklahoma's not having that defensive line. Like you're going to face an Oklahoma State defense that probably is the closest thing to Pitt last night. But I doubt you face a better, more talented defensive line and mixing talent with experience. I doubt you face a better one the rest of your schedule than you did last night. And so if you can clean up a couple things on defense, obviously Charles Wood's injury, big deal. Obviously having to kind of look at making more plays in space on defense, becoming more reliable on offense. So there's all these little things that I think you can clean up. And I think to JT Daniels' point after the game of we're fighters, we're going to fight compared to we're not in a place where we need to be. But you can fix the things, as he said last night, you can fix the things that were mistakes last night. You can't fix how you guys had effort, how you guys fought. And I think this team played with a lot of effort. I think they fought hard, and in the end, it just wasn't enough. But I also think they outplayed Pitt. I think West Virginia was the better team. It's just there was the couple plays here and there, and that make winner breaks these rivalry games. Winner breaks and that sucks. So going forward, my one big takeaway was that this offense is going to be really good. I think the potential for this offense is high. What I just hope that this drop doesn't haunt Bryce Ford the rest of the way, because outside of that drop, he was really good. Like he looked like a potential NFL receiver last night without that drop. So he was really good. He was physical. I think this whole offense was physical. Offensive line, they got to clean a couple things up. Can't have the dumb penalties, but I think the dumb penalties don't come with every game. I think it kind of comes with this rivalry game. And so this offense, I think, is going to be good. And if this defense can kind of, as we said before, right, they got to mesh. All these new pieces, they got to come together. As soon as they start coming together more, I think this team can make some noise. And I think this team can win 8 games this year.
Yeah, big picture. I mean, it's hard to say. I don't know. Gives me 2017 vibes with Greer coming in and playing his first game, and it's good. And you still won 7 games. I don't know.
Yeah, I think I texted our group chat.
Yeah, you did.
I was like, this gives me Virginia Tech 2017 vibes. And then I got a text back privately from someone last night, I will not name them, that said on the last drive when West Virginia was kind of driving, and I think it was during one of the injury timeouts, it was like, is this going to be a Will Greer 18 Austin? And I responded, no. Like, I didn't think so, but also I think you go for two there if you score a touchdown. Like, I don't know why you wouldn't, but that's conversation doesn't need to happen because it didn't happen. So I think this offense is really good. I think that JT Daniels is really good. If he stays healthy, look out because West Virginia proved that they can stay in the game with one of the country's top defenses, and so that is a plus. Um, what else you got? Anything else from you,
Um,
big picture wise?
yeah, yeah. I mean, big picture for the season, I like the offense, but I like Harrell and Daniels and all that, but I don't think that drop will haunt Bryce Ford Wheaton. I think he'll be good, but there's got to be people step up for this offense to be complete. Especially when the young secondary is probably going to be toasted every now and then against talented Big 12 teams because that's the Big 12. You put up points. Oklahoma will still score. Texas, all these teams will score. So it's going to come down to offense at some point, and the procedure penalties have to stop. I mean, it's every year. It's been every year since Neil got here in 19. There's always procedure penalties on 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, 4th and 1, a procedure penalty. You need improvement from guys like, I mean, Sam James has been here for a while. He needs to. He had a decent game last night, but he's got to step up at some points. I think sophomore season, Caden Prather's got to step up and make some plays. You got to secure the ball better. The offense is good, and I like it big picture, but it's incomplete. But I don't think they're that far away from being complete.
Yeah, I think also though we have to also keep in mind that this was game number one. It was game number one of the season, but it was also game number one for JT Daniels in a lot. Like he had not played in this type of environment in a little bit. He played with Georgia last year. Obviously, played that Clemson game early in the year, but he has not played football really in almost a whole calendar year, like 10, 11 months here. So he was getting out there. Graham Harrell was getting out there. Like there were a lot of firsts on that offense. And I'm not upset with where they were and how they played last night, just because I I don't think a lot of people are giving Pitt's defense credit for how good they actually are. Um, I wouldn't be surprised if they finished like as one of the best two defenses in their conference in the ACC, and if they like again are one of the best defenses, especially on the defensive line in the country. They're just super physical. They're going to get after you. And I think this offense made plays. I think I was pleasantly surprised by CJ Donaldson when he first came in the game for his first carry. I was like, oh, good to see, because as we talked about it, like he wasn't on the
What
depth
did he
chart.
play?
Neil kind of gave a little snarky answer that seemed like, oh, is he not going to play? Like, did something happen? Like we were caught off guard. First freaking carry, he goes like 30, 40 yards down the field, and then we're like, oh my goodness, this kid's second. Like it was crazy to see. 100 yards as a true freshman in your first game in a rivalry game. That's really freaking good.
And he blocked a
And
punt, which immediately led to his touchdown. I mean, that's ridiculous. He blocked a punt, and then the next play he ran in for a touchdown.
yeah,
He
like
had carried like 4 defenders with him.
yeah,
So 7 for 125, touchdown, block punt. I mean, 7 carries. Like, I don't know. Like, I'm kind of biting my tongue. Like, why is he not getting the ball a little bit more when he's proven that he's a big guy? He's got electricity and he can run downhill.
I think that's
7
part of
carries.
I think that's part of it though, Aaron. I think it's part of it is that he hasn't been this running back in a little bit. Like he said, he came into West Virginia expecting to be receiver, tight end, running back. Like he was told that was part of he said what he liked about this place was that he felt he could fit in multiple spots. So I think that I don't think he's your running back one yet. I think there you take too much of a pounding that this offensive staff doesn't want him to take this early in his career. I think that Tony Mathis, 16 carries, 76 yards, he did not really run the ball well until late in that game.
He
I
had
also think that
he
I
had a
hold on one second. I also think that his runs were not designed as well schematically as other runs. I think he was sometimes put in spots that were to get 3 yards, not just kind of break open plays. And I think that although CJ Donaldson came in a couple third and short situations and ran the ball down the field, I think that's more of not a knock on Mathis. I think it's more of a reason that it's more of a reason because no one wants to tackle someone who's 275 pounds running straight down like at you. So that's not a knock on Tony Mathis, but I just think that for a true freshman, I don't want him getting 20 carries a game. I think that 7 to 12 number is kind of your sweet spot for Donaldson.
Yeah, I don't know. Obviously, it's his first collegiate game. He's a true freshman. But they've raved on him all camp, and for good reason. I think you're right about Mathis. I don't think he ran the ball extremely well. But he did have one good run where he kind of eluded a Pitt defender. This was, I want to say, fourth quarter. I think. But yeah, I don't know. With an offense that needs to find a running back after Letty Brown, obviously Mathis is the number one. But I mean, if Donaldson keeps it up, if he's the best player on the field at that position, I don't see why he can't be a running back one. But I don't know the coach is playing with him, and
I want to see. What I want to see with him is I want to see him disguised as a running back, and then they do play action and they find him on the outside. Because I think if he can catch the ball, which he's supposed to, he came here as a tight end, right? Like if he can catch the ball in space, he can also cause problems. Justin Johnson, I thought he ran hard. Another running back in that room. 4 carries, 12 yards. I thought he ran well. Like the effort was there. That's all you can really ask for. And then it was good to see Garrett Green get on the field. Works hard. And kind of a wrinkle, like throw that in the game 3 times, like it was because it caught, like when it catches you off guard, it's catching the defense off guard. And worst case scenario, like you don't get to run the play, they burn a timeout. So there's a lot of different moving, you know what I mean? So there's a lot of different moving parts there. Good to see him get a carry. At first I was like, wait, what? Like, is JT hurt? And I was like, wait, no, it's just like, this is what they do. This is what they do. I was impressed by Graham Harrell's play calling. I think there was a good balance. I think there was never a point where I was confused, I don't think, by the play calling. And I can't say the same from last year. I just think that I think this offense is in a really good spot game one. It really did give me Virginia Tech 2017 vibes, though, of new quarterback, first year transfer quarterback, and hostile environment, and like down the wire,
to the last play,
like,
yeah.
oh, you can make a play and then just couldn't get it done. And if that means this team's gonna then be that similar to that 17 and then 18 team, like, all right, like that's your best 2 teams you've had in the last 8 years. So like, go get that. That's Skylar Howard team that won.
Yeah, 16. They won 10 ball games, but that TCU was down that year. But yeah.
We get the point. So I'm impressed with this offense. I'm impressed with the play calling. I think that there's a lot of positives. You just lost in the worst way, and that's the hardest part. Like if West Virginia played Baylor last night and it was in Waco and they lose on that, it hurts, but you move on.
It's Pitt.
But because it's Pitt, because it's the first game in 11 years, it hurts that much more. And that's the play that you're going to see for the rest of this rivalry. That's a play that's like, I hate to bring it up, but it was like 2007 Pat Mac, like, you know what I mean? Like it was in your head, all you can think about is all the bad. And unfortunately for the Mountaineers, they just couldn't get it done yet again. But I am confident with this team going forward, and I am really confident with this offense. Special teams look good. I know we kind of briefly talked about that. Oliver Straw, punter from Australia, 2 freshmen from Australia. It was actually cool. The Pitt punter and the West Virginia punter, same schools, like both true freshmen, both punted well, both from the same place. So good to see both of that from them. Casey Legg did his job. Can't ask much more. It was good to see 2 touchbacks in a game, right?
Yes,
on
I was so caught off guard by that.
At first, the first 2 didn't really get down there, and then he got one in the end zone. He got the second one in the end zone. I was like, thank you. Neil said Park Grothoff is going to add to it, and he did. Game balls, you ready to get there? You got anything else?
Yeah, we move on to game balls.
Game balls, CJ Donaldson for me. Played really well. Obviously, true freshman first game. JT Daniels, game ball. I just think that he was good. I'm also going to give a game ball. Dante Stills up front, Jared Bartlett up front. Both of them played really well. Dante, man, he was playing with that fire. He was playing with that passion. I loved to see that. I think I don't know. I don't really want to give a game ball to anyone in the secondary. I think Aubrey Burks played marginally well. I just think that when you like you kind of for secondary play, you got to kind of look at the tape and see what it is, and it's 10 a.m. the morning after, and we have not done that. So those are my 4 game balls. If it wasn't for that drop, Rice Ford would be the player of the game for me, but I don't know. That drop looms too large. So,
Yeah,
one more thing before you get into yours. I was impressed with the pace this offense had. I think there were drives where they moved with tempo, they moved down the field, they scored quick, and I think that's what you got to have in this Big 12, and I think that's what you got to have as an offense in general. All right, your game balls go.
I mean, it's kind of hard to go any different route that you went. I don't want to copy you, but my number one for me is going to be JT Daniels. Played with good pace, like you said. He can run a 2-minute offense. Haven't seen that in a while. He can make throws that NFL guys can make. Like he can take a broken play and make it a 20-yard pass. And I thought he played well, considering, like you said, he hasn't played in like a full calendar year. So numbers wise, I give it to him. I think the best player for WVU was CJ Donaldson. I mean, you're talking about a guy who immediately runs the ball downfield for like 40 yards. He had like one run. I think he had like only one run that like he didn't get more than 5 yards. Blocked a punt and immediately scored a touchdown. So he's my player of the game. And on the defensive side, I was going to give it to Dante, but I think I'll just give it to the whole D line. And like plus the linebacker play. I mean, Jared Bartlett and Lee Koba. So I think that whole up front group gets it for me.
That D line against like Pitt's offensive line is no slouch either. So that D line played really well in a tough environment, and I think that they're going to be a bright spot moving forward. And one more thing, my last thing, kind of just about this whole season, I keep thinking of different things. Like, there's no reason this team can't go into some of the places that they got to go into and win. Like, all respect to Lane Stadium in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever it is. All respect to Stillwater. All respect to Austin.
And
I think that's the loudest stadium you're going to be in this year was last night. I just got like that atmosphere was awesome. It was a great opening game for college football. It was a great if you want a standalone game Thursday night, obviously there was the Penn State Purdue game, but whatever. But if you want a standalone return of the brawl, like that was it. Like it was a really, really, really good college football game. I was impressed. I hope you were impressed. I hope the world was impressed. Fortunately for the Mountaineers, they just couldn't get it done in the end.
Yeah, it's very disappointing. The whole nation's watching you college game day. But I do think that might be the loudest stadium of the year. I know it gets loud in Ames and Stillwater and all that, but and Lane Stadium in Blacksburg, but
and Austin, who throws 100,000 people in a stadium. So
yeah. How did I forget that one?
Yeah, it was a Pittsburgh sports record last night. 70,622, I think, was the announced attendance. So that was a record crowd you had last night, and there was a lot of Mountaineer fans. They showed out. They showed out for sure.
Yeah, it was a good showing. But if you want to get over the hump, if you will, you're gonna have to win games on the road, and WVU has simply not done that very well. In the Neil Brown era, I know in 19 they went to Manhattan, Kansas and won, and they went to Fort Worth and won, but that TCU team didn't make a bowl. So they went to Fort Worth last year and won, but like the big road games, the 18 Texas type games, like you're gonna have to steal a couple this year. You're down to 0-1. Like I know it's a good Pitt team, but you got to go to Lane Stadium and win now. I mean, what
Virginia Tech is a must win because you showed that you are better. Yeah. You are a better team than what most think after last night, and Virginia Tech should not be as good as they were last year. So you are now expected to go into Lane Stadium and win that game.
And they weren't even that good last year. So yeah, you have to win that game. No excuses. Just historically, like there's games like this where heartbreak or whatever, and then sometimes the team's just a little bit better than you. So like say we go down to Austin and lose by like 5 or something. But historically, every season there's no-shows. And you can't have no-shows this year. Kansas State on the road last year was a big no-show. Baylor on the road last year didn't even show up to Waco. So there can't be any of that this year. You gotta be playing you gotta be playing your game And if you're playing a team like Oklahoma State or Texas that might be a little bit better than you on paper, you still got to be down to the wire with them. No shows this year.
What I will say though is that I think that kind of if you have a no show, I think it starts at the top with your quarterback, and I think that JT Daniels is too good, and I think he's too much of a leader of this offense. And I think like if you really want to be honest, this team's going to come together after last night. I saw like Pitt kind of walk, like West Virginia's tunnel was right next to the Pitt student section, and when they were walking off the field, Pitt was kind of going over towards their student section, but also kind of in a way following West Virginia. It looked like some dudes were waving. Like this group's going to come together after that loss, and I'm excited to see how they respond because there's not often that you have opportunities to get off the mat and respond. They've got 11 more games this season, and if they go win 8 of those, then we're still thinking about this game like, dang, we lost it. But like, you also think that if you have 8 more games, you're winning 6 conference games. Like, that's a big deal. So hopefully this kind of lights a fire saying, look, we're good enough to compete with some dudes. Let's go do that. Last thing for me, I know I've said that 3 times now. Like, if you want to think, like, let's think about West Virginia's schedule. Texas, what do? They got Bijan Robinson, they're going to win the ball. Well, West Virginia just had faced 40 carries and allowed 2 yards per carry. So there's positives here. Like, this offense is going to keep your team in games. Defense steps up a little bit. Obviously, Charles Wood's injury is big. Defensive line plays well throughout the season. This team could be good. And there hasn't been that sense of optimism since 18. And I think that's why, even though the loss sucks, there's so many good things to see from this team going forward.
Yeah, they faced a lot of adversity last night. Yeah, I'm sure they got disrespected a good bit before the game, and they're right there. They probably should have won the game last night, but they didn't. So it's gonna be a test, and I'm like you, and I think they're gonna rally together. I really like JT Daniels as a leader. He's just got a new system with Graham Harrell, and it reminds me a little bit more like Will Greer, David Sills, Gary Jennings days, as opposed to the last 3 years. But it's also very different too. So. And to stay on the kind of no-show topic, I mean, I don't think that happened with Will Greer and that kind of team. Maybe 18 Iowa State, but I think Will Greer was concussed in that game. But that's beside the point. They just didn't really do that. If they lost because because of a couple plays or because the team was better. It's not because they went out there and no showed. So I fully expect this 2022 team to not do that behind JT Daniels. And there's a lot of positives from last night, but it hurts.
It does hurt. And the best thing in the world is that they get to go out in 8 days and play Kansas. So hopefully if you're the Mountaineers, you kind of take this fire, take this energy, put it all into KU, and you go beat the brakes off Kansas, get 1-0 in the Big 12, move on to Towson, beat Towson, and then you're setting up yourself. You can go 3-1 in this month. With the 2 teams you have to face on the road and rivalry games on Thursday nights.
We'll take it.
You take it. And although you're going to be thinking hindsight, oh, what if you win that Virginia Tech game and you take care of Kansas and Towson? Oh, we could be 4-0 right now heading into Texas. You got to also think, this is year 4. Like, you want to see improvement? I think you saw that improvement last night. Play calling is always going to be a question. Big decisions like that, 2020 is hindsight. So you just got to move on, and this team will move on, and they will move on in a week. So that's it. You got anything else?
No, I said my piece.
That is it for us today. If you like this episode, be sure to subscribe on YouTube, give us a follow, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. We do appreciate you listening. We will come back to you, I would say, Tuesday after press conferences, right? Tuesday or Wednesday with a preview. Tuesday or Wednesday with a Kansas preview. Until then, I'm Wesley Shoemaker, joined by Aaron Parker. We thank you for listening, and this is the Blue Gold Sports Podcast. And one more thing, we are throwing in the JT Daniels interview, and it is right here.
Right, so JT, your first time back out there, at least this year, and for West Virginia, just give us your analysis, your performance, the offense, a couple of mistakes that hurt, but overall, what'd you think?
All around, I felt great. I felt great with myself and really the whole team in general. Offense, defense, I'm really proud of this team. Be honest with you. I think I think of all things that you can fix from a week-to-week basis, execution is one of them. Culture and fighting, like a team of fighters, you can't fix that, and this team can fight. There's a lot that I'm very optimistic about this team.
Take me through those 2 touchdown passes to Bryce. What's the key to timing up that fade, and just did you feel good about that chemistry coming into today?
Yeah, with all the receivers, I feel great about it. I played football for a long time, and a lot of just throwing a back shoulder fade is, it's something I've been doing since I was 10 years old. At this point, it's pretty much second nature. I don't have to think too much about it, and something me, Bryce, KP, Sam, really all of us have worked a lot on.
JT, I want to ask you about the interception. What are the emotions like as a quarterback when you probably put the ball exactly where you want to, and then you end up watching them put it in the opposite end zone?
Well, the first thing you do is try and make a tackle. And then after that, it's, after the play, I said, who cares? It makes the story cooler. I'm not, if I throw Bryce 1,000 stop routes, that might happen once. It's just, it's unlucky. It's a fluke thing that happened, and it happened. To me, it's like as soon as that play's over, it's like, all right, next play, let's go out and score. And I think we did a great job in the last 2 minutes of the game. We weren't put in a great situation. I think we did a great job giving it all we had. I think Reese made a hell of a play, and you just came up, just that little bit short.
What did you say to him? So you went to him afterwards and
I told him I was proud. I don't know how many targets he had that game, but I don't think it was too many. And he really didn't give. He was ready to go as soon as his number was called. They gave us a 2-man look. Reese read it perfectly. I think he ran a great route. I think that ball had to be. I think I could have gotten up a little bit and tried to keep it away from both safeties that were collapsing on it. And it's something Reese has caught a few of those in practice, and I really think he caught it. I think he did a great job, and I was really proud of him. From not one time did he say, "Yo, I need the ball." He ran his ass off every play, and when his number was called on, I think he did everything he could have.
So your angle, do you think he caught it?
I thought he did based on the rule. I wasn't aware that the ball can hit the ground as long as the receiver had control, and I thought he did. I thought he had control, but I guess not. I don't make the calls.
JT, you've obviously have been in a lot of big atmospheres between USC and Georgia. Where did this one rank up there for you?
It's definitely up there. It was really cool. I love hostile student sections and the whole crowd and all that. I think that's probably one of my favorite things about college football. That makes college football different from anything else. Is how involved the fans are, and I think it's great. So it was definitely up there. It's an experience I'll remember for a long time.
JT, CJ said that you made some checks to give him a handoff. Was it strictly because of the defense, or did you kind of think he might have had something because of the way he runs and the way he plays?
CJ's pretty special, and they didn't. It doesn't seem like anybody wants to tackle him, and if it doesn't seem like anybody wants to tackle him, I'm giving him the ball.
JT, this was your first chance to play in a game scenario in a WVU uniform. Just what do you hope that Mountaineer fans have learned about you today in this game?
I'm gonna give it everything I got, no matter what it is, no matter what the situation is. And I think if you watch the game, I think you see this whole team has that in them. Like I said earlier, you can clean up execution, and we'll clean up execution. There were a lot of points we left on the table, but that's fine. It's going to happen sometimes. The things that you can't fix, we don't have to fix. The team will fight. They'll go to war. And that's a team I'm proud of and the team I'm proud to be on.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.